Good evening. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to a BW Dialogue. Today we are talking to a family of entrepreneurs, to two generations of a family that has built a large business, which has had a entrepreneurial impact and I would say social impact. So let me welcome Mr. Chittilappilly, who is the chairman of VGuard, also chairman of the amusement park businesses that they have. Let me also welcome Mr. Mithun Chittilappilly and Mr. Arun Chittilappilly. So welcome to all three of you. Joining me in the conversation will be our senior editor at BW Business World, Mr. Ruhail Amin. Ruhail, I'd request you to be on the screen, and also Miss Urvi Shrivastava, who will also join us in the conversation. Let me first start with Mr. Chittilappilly, and for simplicity, I will call Mr. Chittilappilly, and I'll call Mithun and Arun by their first names so that we don't confuse with the three Chittilappilly. First of all, let me start with you, Mr. Chittilappilly. You started this business, you built it to a level, and suddenly, exactly 2 years back, we're talking on 22nd March, on 23rd March 2020, the lockdown was enforced and the pandemic came in. I would like to ask you, by starting to know from you, how did you do personally and professionally during the pandemic in the last 2 years? How did you do in your businesses, and how did you do in terms of your personal time, life, family?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Batra. There is a small correction. For the time being, I am not the chairman. I am chairman emeritus of VGuard, or Wonderla Amusement Park. And of course, I have another small business. We have a construction company called Vigaland Developers. That company, I am deeply involved. For your question, for the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, all of us are struggling. Everybody is struggling, and same with me also, same for everybody. But just for your information, I never felt that serious, because our construction field was most of the time was open, and most of the time I used to visit my construction sites, my office, so that I can go out, because this is a essential service. So our constructions were going on. So when compared to many other businesses, we never had a dip. Telling frankly, we never had a dip in the construction company. Of course, other companies, they have their own struggles that Arun and Mithun will explain. So by and large, I was comfortable with the last 2 years, even though there were so many other pressures. Thank you.
Families, businesses always are built on trust, collaboration, and empathy. While you may have a father-son relationship, in business it's about balancing personal relationship but maximizing professional output. And in a well-governed company like you, I'm sure that's the case. Now, let me also ask you a follow-up question. VGuard Industries does products which people use a lot in-home, right? And we spent a lot more time in-home. So, and also people bought second houses because they realized that their family needs a second house, because schools became homes, homes became school, offices became home, home became offices. So the last 2 years, anything for in-home was good. And, technology made sure that the kind of products that you are needed more and more. So give us a sense of what is the kind of products that did well in the last 2 years within your kitty.
Dr. Batra, regarding VGuard, I believe Mithun has to reply for it, because Mithun is fully in charge, as I explained.
Sure, I'll come to Mithun. But before I come to Mithun again, let me, Mr. Chittilappilly, I'm a big believer, while I'm sure entrepreneurship is in your blood and DNA, and Mithun and Arun have learned from you. But I always ask this to fathers whose sons have done well and who are in a family business which is doing well. Tell me, what have you learned from your sons?
Of course.
I believe in the process of reverse mentoring. And,
yes,
fathers may not admit, but they always learn from their sons. What have you learned from your sons?
Yeah, of course. No, I'm sure that they are more educated than me. They did their post-graduation abroad. I was born and brought up in a village, studied in a local school, did my post-graduation from local college, whereas all other, Aruna and Midun had a good exposure to the entire world. And moreover, the time has passed, the technology has improved. Earlier days, I used to boast myself, I am good in technology, but I have to confess that nowadays, the modern technology, I am very, very weak because no, I came into management more than technology. We have so many assistants for technology. So Arun and Midun are more exposed to technology. So that way it helped a lot to take the company to the next level. Sure, no doubt about it. So I was watching that what are they doing, and that's why for the last 6 years, Arun and Midun running the show entirely, even in my absence, even before that. The latest, the developments of our family businesses, you have to ask them. But of course, I have learned many things because not only from Arun and Midun, but of the new gen managers, because of their capabilities, especially the knowledge level. Just for your information, I never expected I will become an entrepreneur while I was studying in college as well as in school, because my father was a farmer and we are from a village. So that is a total shift from my personal life to starting a tiny industry, and somehow we reached this stage in between Arun and Midun joined. So we were able to develop to the next level. I hope I have answered the question.
So much, Mr. Chittilappilly. I'll come to what are the assets you play. You're being very humble in how you put out your achievements. Of course, most leaders are humble, and I'll come to you to ask you what it takes you to become a successful leader. What is your advice? How did you deal with the challenges in your journey? And how did you mentor the team? How did you mentor Mithun and Arun? But let me go to Mithun. Mithun, let me start you by asking you the same question that I asked Mr. Chittilappilly. How did you engage personally and professionally in the last 2 years of the pandemic? How did it impact you, and how were you able to, so to say, rise to the challenge and adapt? And technologies become an important aspect, more important than it ever was. I was doing research before I started this dialogue, and I saw all your products are available on all marketplaces, e-commerce platforms. You yourself have a very robust e-commerce website. I didn't notice that. So I would also be at some stage wanting to know is, while you have a traditional omni-channel presence, how is the e-commerce part of your business picked up, and how do you see the offtake in that segment? But first of all, my philosophical question, how have you done personally and professionally in the last 2 years?
So I think the beginning of the pandemic was definitely a very stressful time for all of us. Both personally and professionally, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of uncertainty about the future. There was a lot of we were frankly scared. We did not know. There was a few days when I remember oil had reached zero or something like that, and it was like almost the entire world was kind of crumbling. But I think after the first couple of months of the initial lockdowns, and it was a complete lockdown. At least in Kerala, we were not able to step out of our houses and stuff like that. It was a complete change, because no help, no maids, no drivers, nothing. So it was a little bit challenging in the initial period. But I think as the days progressed, more and more clarity emerged. We learned that a small percentage of people were actually getting into trouble. More of the older people were getting into trouble. So it was more, as more and more clarity emerged. It was as the anxiety levels did come down. I had a lot of free time because no traveling, no meet. Initially at least the meetings were less and stuff like that. So um, I focused on at least spending a lot of time on fitness, a lot of time on reading, a lot of Netflix in the initial period. Because we were not, it was not physically possible for us to step out. At least in Kerala, it was pretty strict, the lockdowns. Uh, Later on, if you ask me about the company, yes, we have found that last 2 years have changed consumer behavior. Some of the change was temporary, and some of that change is permanent. And one of the changes increased adoption to e-commerce. I think e-commerce was primarily used by younger people, mostly in urban areas. But today, e-commerce is prevalent, and today, I think the consumers of e-commerce or people who use e-commerce channels are across the age spectrum. Even we find that younger members of the household buys stuff for their parents and grandparents using both Amazon and Flipkart apps, which are the two large e-commerce apps in the country today. Our own partnership with these companies started about 4 or 5 years back when we realized that slowly but surely, initially there was a lot of deep discounting and a lot of channel conflicts, so we refused to partner with them. But I think about 5 years back, we have started with a very strong journey with both Amazon and Flipkart, and in fact, today we have joined business plans. So to every March we sit with Amazon and Flipkart and make what are the annual plans we do today. So today, if you ask me for VGuard, for relevant categories, we get roughly about 10 to 12% of our revenues from e-commerce. We think that can go to about 20-25% in the next 5 years. Ballpark figure, we do roughly about 100 odd crores of revenues from e-commerce, because not all categories are sold on e-commerce, like motor pumps, house wiring cables, switches, switchgear. These are products that are required to be sold through a retailer or an installer or an electrician or a plumber. So, most of the plug and play products, we have seen the market going from anywhere between 4% to 10 to 20% of the market shifting to e-commerce, and VGuard probably gets about 10 to 12% of revenues from this particular channel. And I think, like I said, when during the initial period, this had spiked, but it has come back to normal. But we still believe that e-commerce is here to stay. And today, those companies like Flipkart and Amazon in India are also mature, and they don't do any more deep discounting. They like to partner with companies for the long term, so that the genuine products are sold on their platform and not duplicates and counterfeits and stuff like that. And today we have a very good, and we are investing more in technology. We are investing in, we have 8 warehouses dedicated for e-commerce today across the country. We are able to ensure that within 24 hours, at least 80% of the consumers get their product. We are able to ensure that in 48 hours after the purchase, we are able to install the product for most of our consumers. So these are the kind of metrics that we work with both these partners, and I think it's a good beginning. And I think definitely we believe that e-commerce will hit something like 30 to 35% of the overall retail market in the long term.
Thank you so much, Mithun, for being able to share your journey of VGuard and how e-commerce has become an integral part of the retail operations, and what categories are doing well. And you're right, Mithun, just to support what you're saying, if you look at first of all, the organized retailing will grow from current levels of just about double digit, about 15% to 35% in the next 2 years. And the e-commerce market, let's take US, which is the most advanced e-retailing market. Even then, just before the pandemic, the total share of e-tailing versus retailing was almost 16% over the last 20 years. And within the last 2 years, that has almost become 30%. So 16% in 20 years and 14% in 2 years. So you can imagine the pace and the rate of growth. So clearly, while omnichannel is the word, hybrid is the word, phygital is the word, e-commerce is clearly here to add to sales and to be able to add to the experience that a consumer wants. Sometimes you know what you want, you're able to see through AR, VR, or have used the same product in the past, and you're comfortable buying it. Possibly the only thing you do is price comparison, and again, that is very easily possible. Now, let me shift to Mr. Arun Chittilappilly. Arun, you heard Mr. K. Chittilappilly and Mr. Mithun Chittilappilly speak, share their experiences and where they're headed. Let me also start by asking you, how have been the last 2 years for you both personally and professionally? And while you're part of the V-Guard family, you're a promoter, you also have an amusement park business. Clearly, during COVID, that would have suffered because it is the nature of the business. But the numbers for the entertainment industry, for what is happening in cinemas, or what is happening to hotels is a surrogate. Then the amusement park business should also come back in a big way. If I use those numbers as surrogate. So give us a sense of
already come back in a big way.
Yes. So here, there you are. So give us a sense of where we are headed and how did you do in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so I think obviously it was a big reset and a rethink of everybody and their lives and their health and everything, right? So I think like Mithun and my dad said, I think initially was figuring out whether is this thing going to kill us? If not, I mean, what are the things that I should do to make sure that personally I'm safe and things. So I think initially I did spend a lot of time and sitting at home for days on end was something new for all of us, I think. So I think just getting used to that, having a new routine, spending more time on your health, eating right, those kind of things, and some mindfulness, yoga, a lot of physical activities. I even started doing intermittent fasting during the lockdown, and it's helped me a lot. So personally, I think it's been a huge game changer for me. I think it's helped me a lot, and it's also made me, we have a community in the building. We started helping each other, in times of, need or some crisis, especially during the lockdowns. So I think that sense of community was also very crucial. As you said rightly, for the business, it was, I mean, we had never closed our amusement parks ever. Before the pandemic, like the most we have had closed any of our parks was when Dr. Rajkumar died in Bangalore. We closed, I think, the park for 3 days. That's it, and that was the largest number of days that we had closed the park. And then we are suddenly in a situation we were completely closed for months together. So I think initially it was very hard, but I think quickly we realized that we need to control our costs, and so. Luckily, a lot of our, most of our staff took voluntary pay cuts, and we were able to drastically reduce our costs. And so that's how we kind of managed the first few months. Then the second thing was like, how do we get back into business after the lockdowns? People are coming back. And I think that's when I think we did the big shift to digital marketing. Prior to 2020, Wonderla was mostly doing offline marketing. But I think post the first wave of COVID, we have completely shifted to digital marketing. And in fact, that change should have happened maybe 2-3 years before. I think we are late to the party because Wonderla as a product appeals to younger audiences more than older audiences. And younger audiences are no longer watching TV or they are no longer reading newspapers. So I think we should have been targeting more digital people more digitally, which I think we started doing post the pandemic, especially the first wave. And I think he helped us a lot, bringing back people to the parks, explaining about safety protocols that we follow, or telling people that we have special offers, or telling people that we are open and we're safe, or telling people that we are going to close. If there's a second wave or a third wave, how do you let people know quickly and effectively how, because it was a very dynamic business environment. We would be open for 3-4 months. We would have decent footfalls and then have to close again. So I think it made us a lot more nimble as an organization. And I think big kudos to my team for pulling that weight. And I think emerging out of the pandemic, what we are seeing is people love to travel, and our parks have always ranked highest as an entertainment or amusement destination in all our host cities. We are number one or number two. That's it. So I think in that sense, when the demand did come back, it did come back very strongly, and I think that has helped us a lot. So I think also new ideas like buy now, pay later, like we never used to do.
That's a typical e-commerce word. You know,
yeah, sorry. So
20 years
BNPL
back, Amazon sales went up by two things. One, the word free. The moment you put free, even in e-commerce, it just takes up. And second is buy now, pay later.
Yeah, so I think
and the third thing was one click.
Yeah,
Amazon brought it this one click. So buy now, pay later is a very big
ticket sales. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so even for our ticket sales, our strategy is completely different now. We do a lot of moment marketing. There are ways in which people can get our tickets free also if they come, first few people buying online. And we were surprised ourselves. Now, before the pandemic, just 10% of our ticket sales were online. Now, almost 30% of our ticket sales are completely online, and it's growing. And I think at some point, at least in this entertainment sector, you can see more majority of the sales being online. If you look at a PVR or Inox, they must be getting much higher percentage online. So I think we are also going in that direction. Buy now, pay later is a new thing that we're just adding. We've just rolled it out, in fact, maybe about a week ago. So I think that's going to be the next game changer. The other big things that we've done is a lot of digital transformation in terms of how we connect with our customers, how we make sure they have a good experience, and how we collect feedback. So the whole LTV, or the lifetime value of a customer, how we do marketing funnels, the whole thing has changed. I think so. It's been a complete 180-degree shift for the company.
Now, there are already questions coming. There is a question from Balaji Naidu. Sir, why are products not sending to UAE and rest of the world? There's a question from Ashfaq Sahib. Hello, V-Guard management. I'm Ashfaq from Pantana Mita, now in UAE. Also customer of Wiggle and Builders. Would like to know about your plans in the EV charger manufacturing segment. There's also a question to Mr. Chittilappilly. Sir, what made you understand the need to delegate very early on and start opting for professional management? We usually see promoters, entrepreneurs doing that very late when they have to do that running against the clock. So I'll start with that, Mr. Chittilappilly, and bring you back into the conversation.
Okay, yeah, regarding the delegation, in fact, I myself used to feel that whether I am really fit as a management, because I never had any experience or education, professional education, MBA or nothing. My strength was only into technology. So slowly by slowly, I tried to grab people. At the same time, I tried to initially the company was a small scale level, then slowly I started developing. So I have a feeling that we can develop people and we can delegate people. They may do better job even than us. Very frankly, we have very strong team of people. So that way, V-Guard was quite popular for delegation. Some of our managers started as a executive. Some of our managers started as initially started as just a junior engineer. Now they became the vice president of the presidents of the companies. So that level they were able to raise, nothing but because of their own upgradation. I motivated them. I myself tried to improve my skills in management. For example, I attended a number of short-term programs, even for public speaking, because public speaking also very difficult for me. Even for spoken English, speaking in English was quite difficult for me. So vehemently, I tried to improve myself. And at the same time, I tried to encourage our people to do some part-time courses. Some of them just a graduation, either engineering or say or a art graduation. finally, they also started excelling in the field of management. So I believe when Arun and Midun finished their studies, might have noticed what is their father is doing. So they might have thought, even they were abroad, they might have thought they will also will get a space for them. So it is my duty to give space for everybody so that I can relax more and I can chase my passion. So that was the principle I used to follow. So I don't know that particular delegation. You have to ask Arun and Midun about their father. Definitely, I believe in people. I'm a strong believer of delegation. Unless we delegate, we can't grow a certain level. How long we can continue as a one-man show? It's very difficult, a short period. No, you can't grow much. No, somebody else will overtake you. That is the problem. Even to maintain your status, you have to progress. That is the most biggest trouble in the business. If you think that okay, I am okay with this, I am comfortable with this, but then that means you are almost standing on a moving treadmill. Definitely you will fall. So I believe delegation, and I have proved that delegation is successful. That way I'm comfortable even at the age of 71 now. Thank you.
You don't look 71.
Oh, thank you.
Give away your age. You could
Thank
easily
you for
pass
your
as, I say it with all, I may say it jokingly that you may pass as Mithun and Arun's older brother, but you do look very fit. You do look very fit. I mean, there's lots
thank you
of
for your
questions
kind
coming
words.
in. There's lots of questions coming in, but there's a question that I would, though we have our own question, and I'll bring in Mr. Ruhail Amin and Urvi into the conversation. But there's a question about the amusement parks in tier 2 cities from Shreyas Rajan. He's asking, what about amusement parks in tier 2 cities? Any expansion plans? Arun, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, we are looking at tier 2 cities also, but for our parks to be viable, we need cities which are at least about a million population. So we are looking at cities like Bhubaneswar. We are exploring Ahmedabad. We are exploring Goa. We are exploring other smaller places also. But at the same time, we are also looking at larger cities like Chennai, where we already have some investments. Then we are looking at maybe Bombay or Pune, the larger cities also. But going forward, yeah, I think even the smaller cities, but we can't do it in a small city that is very small because the project will not be viable.
Absolutely. Thank you for being dead honest. There's one question, and possibly Mithun can take this. This question is from a person who's basically asking you that the competition in the segment that you are in is very strong. He says that it is from a gentleman called Mr. S.G. Rakshit. How is the company going to compete against companies like Havells, Crompton, Bajaj, who have become very aggressive in the last few years? When there are other companies like Orient Craft, I mean, this segment is very competitive and clearly growing. That's why every player wants to kind of up the game. How will you compete with players like those? That's the question Mr. Rakshit is asking.
So today, if you look at V-Guard, this year we would have comfortably crossed 3,000 crores. I don't want to disclose the numbers because we have not finished our audit and board meeting and stuff like that. But we would have comfortably, crossed that revenue. And today, if you look at V-Guard, there are only two companies which are larger than V-Guard in terms of revenues, which is Havells and Crompton Greaves. We are already larger than Bajaj Electricals and Orient Electric. Yes, those companies are aggressive, but V-Guard has made investments, last 10 years, since I took over as the managing director in 2012. We have made several investments in, people, technology, process. Dad had mentioned about delegation, a while back, and we were discussing about that. So today we are moving from a people-dependent company to a process-dependent company, and we are maybe 60% there. Maybe the journey is not fully over. So V-Guard has its own engine in terms of innovation, research and development, product lifecycle management. So, which ensures that we constantly innovate, constantly refresh, constantly launch. To put it in perspective, we have roughly close to 4,000 SKUs, at any given point of time, and we launch close to 600 SKUs a year. So that's the kind of rigor with which it's not only us. I'm pretty sure Havels and Crompton also does the same. The kind of launch that happens, and that's apart from all the other things that people see as in terms of advertisements and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you so much. Clearly, you've done well, and I'm sure with new focus on e-commerce and just deepening the products you have and just focusing on what you have and building on what you have, I'm sure there'll be some organic growth. There may be also some inorganic growth, and I will not prod you on that. But let me bring in Mr. Rohel Amin and Urvi into the conversation. There are some other questions which we'll keep taking as we go along. Rohel, you, Mr. Chittilappilly, Mithun and Arun. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Batra. And what an honor to be amongst these esteemed leaders today. A company that has grown phenomenally over the years and continues to grow. And what kind of great questions? A lot of questions are still coming to us, but I want to ask my next question to Kaushif sir. To you, the last 2 years is also about leadership. It's about resilience, and it's also carrying people together. And here you have scripted a success story. Give me a sense of, was it easy? Because easier said than done. What all went into ensuring the motivational level stayed up, the productivity stayed up? How did you tide over that phase?
And talking about the last 2 years, the crucial, the pandemic time, actually, the first and foremost thing I noticed, and I encouraged Arun and Mithun, the main thing is our own people. That means how to motivate our own people, how to improve their spirits. In the sense, they are all dejected, sitting at home. So we used to conduct so many webinars earlier. We were believing only physical meetings. Just for your information, we always invite all managers together, and we sit together and we may debate and we may discuss. Whereas I believe last 2 years, every company started, all the other companies also. We also started interacting with through video calls and video programs. Earlier, the setup was there with us, but I believe we were not using properly. So I believe it is an insight for me also. Okay, we can interact with people sitting in Kochi and interacting people all over India. So that way, I was able to motivate our own people, especially in the lockdown period. Their morale has to boost. That is more important, because we have to give them hope. And after all, they are all monthly salaried people. So that way, we encourage them to do some online courses. So that way, I believe their knowledge level has improved. So that is the last 2 years aspect. Thank you.
Mr. Mithun and Mr. Arun, what would be the key takeaways for you if we look at the way leadership has shifted in the past 2.5 years?
I think it's a much more, at least, I mean, my experience has been that it's a much more collaborative kind of effort now. For example, when you're having a meeting like this virtually, there is you're not physically present with each other, but at the same time, you expect the other team members to pull their weight and contribute to the meetings and actually deliver, even though you are not physically there. So initially, I think that those were my worries. Is it going to be okay to have meetings virtually and things like that, and will that reduce productivity and things like that? But I think I'm happy to say that I think at least my experience has been the more that you give, like I said, control to the employees, they are stepping it up, and they are delivering much more than what we expected. So I think it's, like I said, it's become more collaborative and more result-based kind of work, and I think the sense of team spirit definitely has grown even during this pandemic. I think trying to beat something that could have been potentially fatal for a company like Wonderla, right? So I think it kind of rallies people together, and everybody's working. I think it kind of aligns everybody's focus. So those are some of the pleasant surprises that some of the other learnings. Like I said earlier, I think people were willing to contribute over and above and beyond their call of duty, and do go that extra mile to make sure that the things in the company ran smoothly, even when there was a partial lockdown or a full lockdown, things like that. I think we had a lot of stories of people either being stuck or they needed help, and then employees or their team members going out of their way to help and things like that. So it's a lot of those kind of stories which we got to see. I think it's been wonderful. The other big learning from the last 2 years, I think nothing is permanent. I think you could have the best business in the world, and then overnight it can it can change completely 180 degrees, and you could be at the highest disadvantage. So I think being nimble, being agile, I think everything has to be agile. That's something that we learned in the last 2 years. Suddenly we get an order saying we have to close down the park. So we have to, we are a company which employs more than 2,500 people. So, just to shut down parks overnight is not an easy, it's not an easy task. So, but, that agility and nimbleness, I think is something that we've, kind of mastered again. I think because adversity creates those kind of, those sparks that create those kind of. So I think, yeah, nothing is permanent. And then, of course, like I said, digital, the whole shift to digital media, I think it's been a phenomenal work, or meeting your friends or your family, for many months. The only way I could see my parents, it was like this, on a screen. So how do you, maintain relationships? So all those things I think have been huge learnings.
Thanks. Mr. Mithun, your story.
Yeah, so I think, as we've been hearing that, post the start of the pandemic, there is a huge crunch for talent, fueled by various disruption. I mean, we can hear companies talking about huge attrition levels. We can talk. People are quitting. People are quitting jobs more than ever before, and they are. So people have started to prioritize their personal life more than their career, and they are. So I think as far as leadership is concerned, the main challenge for us has been, how to ensure that we are a compassionate, empathetic employer. How do we devise more tools and more technology so people can remotely work if they are getting into a situation where they are not able to travel to the work location. Luckily for us, in somewhere in 2015-16, V-Guard had set up a second headquarters in Gurgaon, because we are a company with national presence based out of Kochi, where you can imagine the availability of talent is very, very limited. I mean, we are a very small town. We can't expect to have talent of, people from our industry, that is primarily consumer durables or electrical industry, coming from anywhere in Kerala. So we were forced to open a second kind of an headquarters, HQ2, in Gurgaon. So I think the management team of V-Guard was already used to working through video conferences because of this. So for us, the shift was a little less dramatic than many other companies. So for us, I think it's all been about how do we ensure that we are empathetic? How do we ensure that we retain the best? Because I think today there's a huge war for talent. and that's going to be the most scarce resource going forward. So if you have a high potential, team member, how do you ensure that he remains motivated? So I think the earlier, maybe 20, 30 years back, there were thousands of people who used to turn up for, one job interview. I think today you will find maybe 100 companies chasing, one candidate. So I think that's been one huge, 180-degree turn as far as engagement with team members are concerned. And I think, so we try to do better. We try to be empathetic. Uh, Today, if someone wants to work out of Bangalore for 6 months temporarily, and it's possible. I mean, provided the job role, it's possible. I mean, provided that his role is not that of a factory manager or a, salesperson who needs to be, in that particular location. We often allow it, and we have found that it's been a great way for us to ensure that we retain the best.
Thank you so much, Ruhail. So I was listening to the conversation intently. Of course, V-Guard has done really well till now, but my question is, what henceforth? Of course, V-Guard is building its existing portfolios across all domains. But what next? From what I've heard, you have ventured into real estate as well. Is that true? And what are your other expansion plans? Mr. Arun, let's start with you.
So I handle Wonderla Holidays. We run amusement parks, right? So our expansion plans are obviously it's mostly to go to new cities, new geographies. So, and also how to kind of leverage the properties that we already have and bring in more footfalls and create more reasons for people to visit. So I think those are some of the things that we've been focusing on in the last couple of years. I think giving people more reasons to visit our parks, whether it's a birthday or it's a Holi or it's any festival. I think we've given a lot of more focus on it because I think people would love to celebrate. Especially coming out of a pandemic, I think we are seeing a lot of latent demand for outings, and so I think it's going to be a good period for the industry. I think the last 2 years were very harsh on the industry. There have been a lot of bankruptcies. People have, I know at least 4 or 5 companies in my sector which have gone bankrupt. So coming out of something like that and to see the demand coming back, I think it's heartening. So definitely we'll be stepping up our investments. We are not going to do real estate in the classical sense of the word, but just because of the nature of our business, we do occupy and use a lot of real estate, and so that continues. And we are also exploring newer form and different kinds of formats. Can we do smaller towns? Can we do a lighter model? Can we do in partnerships with people in maybe other cities? So these are some of the things that we are exploring. But we do feel like for Wonderla, I think we are about active, energizing fun, and that's our essence of Wonderla as a company. So anything where there is fun, anything that is celebratory, anything that's active, I think that's where we will have a role to play. And I think it's hopefully the worst is behind us, and I think we can look forward to a couple of good years at least.
Right. So, but what about international expansion? Do we have that on the cards? Because it is always heartening to see that a made in India company is going global.
So we have requests from some Gulf countries and even Sri Lanka to take over and manage parks. We are exploring that. But because we already have a lot of demand here, we are only present in 3 cities currently. We will be in 4 in the next 2 years at least. 4 and maybe 5 cities by the next 2-3 years. So this industry, it's not easy to replicate amusement parks overnight. It does take time, but at the same time, I think there is demand because I think we have a good product that we can offer and good know-how of how the industry works and how to manage a large format amusement parks, and I think it's a very unique skill. So yes, we are looking at maybe partnerships with other countries, but nothing concrete as of now.
Right. Before we move ahead with the conversation, let's take up a few questions from the audience. So the first one we have is from Mr. Sudhakar Sadashivuni. Pardon me if I am pronouncing the name incorrectly. So his question is, I'll paraphrase it: as a successful businessman, what will be the key points that you would like to teach the tech startups of the country today? Mr. Mithun, let's call you in. Sir, please go ahead.
Mithun, please. Mithun. Yeah.
Okay, so I think so. If you look at VGuard, we ourselves have made an investment into a battery energy storage company startup called Gigadyne Labs in Mumbai, and we own roughly 20%, and we are handholding that particular company to to develop the next generation battery technology. So from my first interaction with the young founders since the last 3 years, and we made the investment last year, and I know them for the last 2.5-3 years, has been that please focus on unit economics. So I see a lot of companies with 1,000 crore revenue and 1,200 crore losses and stuff like that. It's okay. I mean, the main comparison is Amazon lost money for 21 years. So we are also going to lose money for 10 years, but after that we are profitable. But I think there has to be a game plan to run the business profitably. Simply raising funds, funds are available. Anyone is ready to invest today. There is people running behind you, and blowing up that money in advertisement and consumer acquisition is not the way to go forward. So my advice to tech founders has been, yes, it's don't have to make money on day one. It's okay to lose money. I mean, VGuard loses money on most of its product launches for the first 5 to 6 years before we turn a profit. So I understand that. But I think there has to be a sound business model, and there has to be some paths to profitability, which I often do not see. And I think partly it's the founders to blame, partly is the venture capitalists who want to show huge growth and then exit and hand over the shareholding to a new set of investors. So I think that my thing would be that if you have a good product or good service or whatever it is, please look at unit economics and at least forget about the fixed cost. I mean, at least at variable cost you should be trying to make money. That's my advice.
Yes, as they say in English, that well begun is half done. So of course planning is extremely crucial. So moving ahead with the conversation, I would like to ask you that in the management team, of course, you are all members of the same family. So how do you bring the economic impact of a family unit to a company? I would like to invite the chairperson now, since he's the head of the family, and I'm guessing he would be able to answer this question best.
Thank you. In fact, no, we are 4 people. For example, myself and my wife and Arun and Midun. But just for your information, we have one more company which is managed by my wife Sheila. We have one more. We are into innerwears, especially mainly concentrating in Kerala as well as in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So my policy or my thinking is everybody is busy with their own activities. So we never interfere in others' matters unless they ask some doubts or they ask some help. They have their own individuality, they have their own vision. So for the time being, I am running a much smaller company, VGalan Developers. We are into real estate. When compared to VGuard or Wonderla, it is a much smaller one. We started 6 years back, but just for your information, even because of the pandemic, also still with the pandemic, we are growing steadily. Maybe because of the trust the group has. We get a number of bookings, we get enough and more orders in our order books. That much I can talk about my business activity, so that I can. And just for your information, I used to spend more time for social activities. Thank you.
What appears from your conversation, Mr. Chittilappilly, is you're truly a serial entrepreneur. You like starting new projects, taking them to a certain level, and then handing them over. So you're a creator. The Hindu Trinity has a creator, it has a preserver, and the destroyer is also a creator, because to create, you got to destroy. Destroy is realignment. I don't see destruction as destruction. But tell me, what is your advice to budding entrepreneurs who are building up companies, who are championing startups? What is your advice to them?
And as a person with 45 years of experience into business, my analysis about regarding the newcomers, especially now India, we are fast growing. Earlier, 45 years back, the things were not that great. We were just a poor country or just developing a country, but now we have already proved. And because of that, now getting funds, money is easy.
Capital is easy.
Capital is easy. Whereas in my case, I am happy. I was thankful to the scarcity of money those days. Even to get a loan from the bank or to convince the bankers, managers was quite difficult. So money was quite scarce. Initially, it was a small-scale industry, and especially, as you know, Kerala is famous or notorious for the lack of industries in Kerala. But because of the trust, we steadily was growing. So I know how to grow in a slow and strong manner with a strong foundation. Fast and rapid growth, I never knew that technique. I can't multiply money within overnight. I think
that's a great advice. That Rome was not built in a day. Today, we want to be a unicorn in the first 2 years. So you're right, and you have to focus on structural things, revenues, and building the base. So you're saying build the foundation in the right way, and everything follows. That's what I'm hearing. So you're saying it in other words. It's businesses and enterprises are not a get quick rich schemes. And Mithun and Arun, I would like to ask you, what is your commentary on the valuation of startup companies, especially consumer tech companies? And you've seen they started with a certain valuation on the bourses, but over the last few weeks there has been a value erosion. Some people call it value correction. What is your point of view on that?
Yeah, like I mentioned, most of them are valuing companies 45 times sales, and stuff like that. So 45 times sales means, V-Guard should be a 1.5 lakh crore company. Of course, we are not a startup, but I'm just saying that at some point, multiplication to sales should, translate into multiplication of net income or profit. So I think market is the best, guru. I think the stock market will teach everyone the right way to value these companies. And I think I'm not alone when I say that there is a huge bubble, and the bubble is slowly correcting. And I think finally these tech companies will settle to a valuation of something like 30 times, 50 times earnings. And that's okay. I mean, that's what you give Amazon and whatever it is. But so I think, like I said, 45 times to sales and those kind of valuations, obviously it's a bubble. So.
Okay. And Arun, a lot has been said about the in-home economy, the out-of-home economy, the entertainment, leisure, F&B, hospitalities, as you rightly alluded to, is already come back. Hotels are at 70, 80, 90, 100% of occupancy. People have started to see India. What is your prediction for the out-of-home activities, for services? Leisure and entertainment is one of them. How's your outlook within your sector?
Yeah, I think my sector is unique in the sense that there are not too many players in the amusement parks because it's a very capital intensive. It's you invest all the money upfront even before a single visitor walks in into your premises. So it's a very capital intensive, land intensive, government liaison intensive kind of a thing where we physically have to build infrastructures. So I think those I think it's hard to build and replicate. So I don't think it's a part of it will never become technology oriented, but a part of it will definitely become, I think, overrun with technology, which you are already seeing. For example, booking a tickets or figuring out when are you going to visit the park, or how do I buy F&B inside a park. park, or how do I pay for it? Do I use RFID or do I use cash? So these are things that will keep changing, and the whole experience itself will change with AR, VR, and the metaverse. Maybe I don't think we are far from a time where people will want to spend time in a virtual, like a Wonderla kind of a place. You're already seeing people, buying and selling NFTs and space on the Meta and things like that. So that's the direction in which we are going. But at the same time, out of home or entertainment, by its very nature, for a human being is interacting with other human beings. So that aspect of it, I don't think will change. Maybe the way we interact could become a little more virtual, but definitely interaction and sharing.
So you're superbly optimistic and bullish on the future.
Yeah, also shareability.
I agree your optimism, because the more the value in online, the value of physical touch grows. So it's like either or.
Of it also, right? Like if I can spend time with my family in a cool amusement park, that has social currency. You share about it, you talk about it. I think so that all that is, these are things that we didn't even know 15, 20 years back, right? I mean, if you went to Disneyland, you used to get a picture and used to keep it on your, on your desk. Now you can share it with the entire world and talk about it and take videos, and you can be a star in your own, show. So I think so the shareability and social currency, that will
also add to the experience, the part of the experience.
Yes.
And my last question to you before I let Urvi and Ruhail ask one last question each, is, families, businesses have continued to reinvent them. How do you as a family make sure that you reinvent your business together, you bring each one's strengths to the fore and multiply the business and create a governance structure which works towards maximizing the interest of the shareholders and growing the business? So give us a sense of how you're coming together as a family to grow your business. And Mr. Chittilappilly, let me start with you, and then I'll go to Mithun and Arun.
Good. I have already explained that now all our family members are engaged differently in different companies.
Yeah, but still, as the core promoter group, you would have strategy making sessions. You would brainstorm together and have some shared sense of purpose, while each one of you have a different set of responsibility. But as shareholders in the business, you clearly have some kind of oversight.
In fact, just for your information, we are more independent, luckily, because everybody is holding the top position of each company. But of course, the shares are we are having shares in different companies. So we give them full authority. But of course, we used to discuss their progress. We used to discuss their anxiety. We used to discuss their issues. But ultimately, they have to take the responsibility as a leader of that company. I never ever interfere nowadays, whether it is V-Guard or Wonderla or V-Star. But now I look after only a small company, the smallest company in the group. So that way, more comfortable, more
maybe
light.
That small company will become.
He used to be a mentor for all of us.
Of course. What I'm saying, asking you, Mithun and Arun, is there a playbook for family businesses? A short answer from both of you.
So I think we are, we are not a, normal business family in the traditional sense. There are 4 or 5 different companies. Out of that, 2 are listed companies. The listed companies have its own board of directors. I am I'm a director of only one of the listed companies. I'm not even a member of the director board of the other companies. So the governance aspect is actually done by the individual director board of these companies. And in the private companies, yes, we do serve as directors, but otherwise, it's only one family member. So I think what binds all these companies together is values and ethics. I think that is the kind of code we follow. I don't, of course, we do talk, occasionally about business, at family dinners and lunches and stuff like that. But it's not what, it's not in the traditional sense, that's what only thing we talk about. So the governance piece is actually driven by the individual boards. Both the listed companies have very independent boards. They have independent chairmen, and they have a lot of luminaries on their boards. Both Wonderla and V-Guard, and they are the advisors. So my own board of directors is advising me and my management team on what to do, and similarly for Arun. So then that's how, and I think that's how companies have to be run. I mean, independent of the family.
Yeah. Rui and Royal, your questions, your last set of questions to Mr. Chittilappilly, Arun and Mithun.
I have a question around technology. Since V-Guard is already there in the electronics business to a large extent, do we have any plans for expansion in contemporary electronics? By that I mean, are we going to see electric vehicle charging points by V-Guard, or any investment in IoT or artificial intelligence?
So I think we had made an investment into a company, called Gigadyne Technologies, Gigadyne Energy. Sorry. So they are in the business of developing energy storage, which includes electric battery or any forms of energy storage. And so if anything V-Guard has to do in terms of EVs or anything related to EVs will be through Gigadyne. We own roughly about 20% of the company, and we are also having a couple of directors. We are having board memberships in that company. And that company is developing the next, kind of a replacement for lithium-ion technology, which is the current technology available today. So anything we do with EV or EV charging, it will be primarily through Gigadyne, because it's a very innovative company. It's a startup, and it's one of the rare product startups. It's not a tech startup. It's a product startup, and they've already got 15 or 16 global patents. They have already been, approved by the DRDO, the defense organization in the country, and it is led by two very dynamic, young gentlemen from Bombay. So I think anything we do with EV batteries per se will be, in terms of Gigadyne. V-Guard as a company will partner with startups if V-Guard wants to, participate in that space, because V-Guard as a company, because this is a space requiring huge amounts of research, huge amount of capital, and a lot of patience and a lot of risk. So it wouldn't be wise to house these kind of high risk investments within the company. We rather partner with startups who are partly owned by us and partly funded by outsiders.
Okay, so with that, I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Rohel Amin, for the final question of the day. Over to you, Rohel.
All right. Thank you, Uri. So my final question to you is, from here, you have seen success. It's such a successful company. From here, what's next? Where do we see? What's your vision for the next, say, 5 years? Mr. Mithun and then Mr. Arun.
Arun, you want to go first?
So like I said, I think we want to be a pan-India entertainment company, and I think that's the way we've been working towards. We are already in the 3 large South Indian cities, and the plan obviously is to move slowly to other larger cities and then smaller cities, and also play with different formats, because this is there are different formats that could work in different environments. So our goal is to be in at least another 2 cities in the next 3 years, and then of course going beyond that. Yeah, and going beyond that, maybe there could be some inorganic growth, or could be management contracts. So there are different verticals under which we can grow this business. And like I spoke earlier, we are also looking at maybe partnering with foreign partners to see whether we could do some work in other countries. So I think there's a lot of scope, and I think COVID has been a bit of a setback for, I think, generally most people. But I think coming out of it, I think we are seeing strong demand, and I think, like I said, definitely travel and leisure as a segment is only poised to grow. But staying relevant, staying current, up to date, that becomes more and more paramount. So upgrading ourselves, upgrading our skills, our offerings, those kind of things also will you'll see a lot of change there also.
Perfect. Mr. Mithun, final words.
So I think, V-Guard roughly doubles revenues every 5 years, and that's something that we work on. So, so we will definitely work on, getting close to or crossing 6,000 crores of revenues in 5 years, which is, roughly double of what we will do this year. And that's the kind of 5-year strategic plan what we have. And that's like a rolling, 5-year plan for us.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking out time and being part of this dialogue. And thanks to my colleagues and Dr. Batra especially. And hope to have a real conversation sometime soon. Thanks again for joining us.